The unseen law of sunset behind the distant hills as Officer Daniel Owens stepped off his ship. The strange world he had landed on was quiet, almost unnaturally so. His boots sank into the soft, alien soil with each step, leaving no trace behind. It was his first time on this planet, and everything felt different, unfamiliar, yet oddly inviting. The air was thick with the scent of something sweet, and the sky above, though dark, glimmered with strange stars like tiny diamonds scattered across black velvet dot as he made his way through the alien city. The towering structures loomed over him. The architecture was unlike anything he'd seen before, sharp angles, curved lines, and bioluminescent materials that shifted colors with each step. It felt like walking through a living painting, one that he could only half understand. Daniel was part of a special mission, one he hadn't been briefed about in full detail. The Galactic Council had sent him here with one purpose: to meet with the leaders of this alien race, known as the Saphir, to establish a peace treaty. The Saphir had been mostly peaceful for the last century, but there were whispers of strange laws resurfacing, laws that the Council found troubling. As he walked deeper into the city, Daniel's mind was preoccupied with one thing: the reason for his visit. It was clear that the Saphir were different. There was a law, an ancient law, that stated all human visitors must undergo a body inspection upon arrival. The details were vague, and Daniel's curiosity had only grown since he received the mission brief. What did this inspection mean? Was it a medical procedure, or was there something more to it? He didn't have much time to ponder the questions. The Saphir had summoned him to the grand chamber where the council would meet him. The tall, elegant building stood at the center of the city, its doors wide open, inviting him in. As he stepped inside, he was greeted by a group of towering beings, their translucent skin shimmering faintly in the dim light. Their eyes glowed like the stars above, and their presence seemed almost otherworldly. A woman, taller than him by at least a foot, stepped forward from the group. She had a commanding presence, her deep blue eyes scanning him carefully. Her attire was unlike any uniform Daniel had ever seen, made of flowing materials that seemed to shift and ripple with every movement. There was an elegance in her every motion, a grace that Daniel found both captivating and intimidating. "Welcome, Officer Owens," she said, her voice calm yet powerful. "I am Azira, High Commander of the Saphir. We have been waiting for your arrival." Daniel nodded, trying to keep his composure. "Thank you for having me, Commander Azira. I'm here to discuss the peace treaty the Galactic Council has proposed." Azira smiled slightly, though there was something unreadable in her expression. "Yes, we are aware of your mission, but before we discuss that, there is the matter of the law we must address. As per our ancient customs, all human visitors must undergo a body inspection upon arrival. It is a form of greeting. It ensures there are no threats among your kind." Daniel's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't expected this to be the first thing they brought up. "Body inspection?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "What exactly does that entail?" Azira's smile didn't falter. "It is a simple procedure. We need to ensure that your biological systems are compatible with ours, and that there are no harmful effects your presence might cause to our environment. It is a formality, but one that must be observed." Daniel's mind raced. A body inspection? He had heard rumors about strange rituals on alien planets, but this was unlike anything he had anticipated. It sounded like a medical test, but there was an underlying tone to Azira's words that made him uneasy. He had no choice but to comply, but the thought of being inspected by these aliens, by a species so different from his own, made his skin crawl. "I see," Daniel said, forcing a calm expression. "And where will this take place?" "Follow me," Azira replied, turning gracefully and walking toward a door at the far end of the chamber. As they moved through the hallways, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The walls seemed to pulse with a quiet energy, and the air grew heavier with each step. They entered a small, sterile room that was equipped with various advanced-looking devices. The room was strangely quiet, the kind of quiet that made Daniel feel like he was about to step into something far more dangerous than he had expected. "Please, Officer Owens," Azira motioned for him to stand in the center of the room. "This will only take a moment." Daniel hesitated but obeyed, stepping into the center of the room. He was keenly aware of the strange machines around him, the alien technology that hummed with energy as Azira activated the devices. The room seemed to come alive. Small sensors hovered around him, scanning his body, analyzing his every movement. He felt a chill run down his spine as the machines' lights flickered. "This will only take a few minutes," Azira said softly, watching him closely. Daniel forced himself to breathe normally, but his heart was racing. He had been trained to handle strange and unusual situations, but this felt different. Something about Azira's calm demeanor was unsettling. Was she truly as calm as she appeared? Or was she hiding something? As the inspection continued, Daniel's thoughts spiraled. What was this law truly about? Why was it so necessary for him to go through it? The machines around him beeped in word, and he could feel his body being analyzed at a molecular level. But as each second ticked by, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. There was something more to this inspection, something far beyond what he had been told. Azira's gaze never left him. There was something in her eyes that Daniel couldn't quite place, something ancient. Something that seemed to hold centuries of knowledge and secrets, and in that moment he realized that he was no longer just a visitor. He was a part of something much bigger than he had ever imagined. The inspection ended, and the machine powered down with a soft hiss. Azira turned to him, her expression unreadable. You're clear, the procedure is complete. But Daniel knew that this was just the first step. What came next would change everything. The law had only just begun to reveal its true purpose, and the suspense of what was to come hung heavily in the air. The alien's Laudaniel's mind buzzed as he left the inspection room, his feet barely touching the ground. The cold, metallic walls seemed to close in around him as he walked back down the sterile hall. His thoughts, a jumbled mess of confusion and unease, circled back to the body inspection. What was it really for? Was there more to it than he had been told? As much as he tried to push the thoughts away, he could in single quotes Azira led him through the winding corridors of the grand chamber, her footsteps light and measured. She was eerily calm, and Daniel couldn't help but feel a strange sense of dread creeping up his spine. They reached a large, circular chamber at the heart of the building. The room was vast, with high, vaulted ceilings that stretched far above them. A strange, iridescent light filled the space, casting shadows that seemed to dance on the walls. It was as though the room itself was alive, breathing and pulsing with energy. Please, take a seat, Azira said, gesturing to the sleek, silver chairs that hovered just off the ground. Without thinking, Daniel sat, his mind still racing. What was going on here? Why had the Saphir brought him here in the first place? Azira stood across from him, her posture regal and commanding, her deep blue eyes locked onto his, and for a brief moment, Daniel thought he saw a flicker of something, perhaps uncertainty, or something darker pass through them. But it was gone in an instant. I'm sure you're wondering why we require such an inspection. Officer Owens, she began, her voice smooth but with an edge of something deeper. It is not just a custom, it is a necessity. Daniel's heart skipped a beat. He had hoped that after the inspection, he would be free to get to the real reason for his visit, the peace treaty. But it seemed like that was far from the truth. What do you mean? Daniel asked, his voice betraying his unease. You said it was a formality, Azira smiled, though the expression didn't quite reach her eyes. Formality, yes, but there is more to it than that. Our people, the Saphir, have lived for millennia. We have evolved differently from your kind, and so we have laws that are not understood by all. She paused, and Daniel felt his pulse quicken. The body inspection is not just about compatibility, it is a test of your character, of your mind, your intentions. It reveals whether you are truly worthy of entering our world. It's not just about your biology, Officer Owens, it's about your essence. Daniel sat back, absorbing her words. He had heard of alien species having strange customs, but this was far beyond what he had expected. His mind raced as he tried to make sense of it all. A test of his character. What did that even mean? The Saphir are bound by ancient laws, Officer Owens, Azira continued, her voice growing more intense. We are bound by a code that we have followed for centuries. The law you have just undergone is only one part of it. If you pass, it means you are deemed worthy of our presence, but it is also a judgment. Daniel's mind raced. Worthy? Judgment? He wasn't sure what Azira meant, but the more she spoke, the more he felt like he was playing a part in something far bigger than he had imagined. But why me? He asked, his voice shaking slightly. Why do I have to go through this? I'm here to help with the peace treaty. I have no intention of. Azira raised a hand, silencing him. Peace is not what you think, Officer Owens. It is not as simple as your people believe. There is a force at work here that goes beyond your understanding, and you. She hesitated, her gaze flickering for the briefest of moments. It was as if something was weighing heavily on her, something she wasn't ready to reveal. You have been chosen, she finally said, her voice lowering. You, above all others, have been chosen to help us, but that help comes with a price. Daniel leaned forward. What price? Azira's eyes darkened, her expression unreadable. That, I cannot tell you yet. You will learn in time, but know this, the inspection was only the first step. What comes next is far more dangerous. The tension in the room thickened, and Daniel could feel a weight pressing down on him. He had always been trained for difficult missions, but this was something else entirely. He couldn't help but feel like he had stepped into a web, one that was already too tangled for him to escape. Dangerous? Daniel repeated, his voice tight. What are you talking about? Azira's gaze softened for a moment, almost as if she was trying to reassure him. The law that governs the Saphir is not just about keeping threats at bay, it is about survival. Our world is dying, Officer Owens, the planet we live on is in danger. And the very law that governs us is also what will save us, Daniel felt. His stomach churned. What does that mean? The Saphir cannot survive without a bond. A bond between us and those we deem worthy. That bond will restore balance to our world. Azira took a step closer, her eyes locking onto his. And you, Officer Owens, are a key part of that bond. Daniel blinked, confused and overwhelmed. I don't understand. What do you want from me? Azira's lips curled into a faint, enigmatic smile. You will understand soon enough. But remember, Officer Owens, this is not just about a peace treaty. It is about something far greater, something that will change everything. The air in the room felt thick and Daniel's thoughts spiraled in 1,000 directions. He had come to negotiate peace, but now he was trapped in a web of alien laws, secrets, and forces far beyond his understanding. He had passed the body inspection, but the real test, he knew now, was only just beginning. And whatever lay ahead, it was going to change everything he had ever known. Azira turned and walked toward the door, her movements fluid and graceful. Leaving Daniel alone with his thoughts, he had no idea what to expect next. But one thing was certain, this wasn't just a simple mission, he was part of something much bigger. Something that could alter the fate of two worlds. A bond formed. Silence that followed Azira's departure was deafening. Daniel sat there in the room, surrounded by the quiet hum of the alien machinery. But the weight of Azira's words felt as though it was pressing down on his very chest. He was part of something far beyond the peace treaty he had been sent to negotiate. His mind raced as he tried to process what he had just learned. The Saphir were in trouble. Their world, their very existence, was hanging by a thread, and somehow, he, just an ordinary officer from Earth, was tied to their survival. But how and why him? He had only come here to do his job. What did he have to do with saving an entire alien species? The question nagged at him as he made his way back to his quarters. The lights in the hallways flickered softly as he walked, casting long shadows on the walls. Everything felt different now. His mission, his purpose, it wasn't just about diplomacy anymore. It was about survival. He reached his room and collapsed onto the bed, his mind still spinning. There were so many unanswered questions. But one thing stood out above the rest, the strange pull he felt toward Azira. It wasn't just her beauty though, there was no denying that she was striking, almost otherworldly in her appearance. It was something deeper, something inexplicable, a connection, a bond. Shaking his head, Daniel tried to push the thoughts aside. He had to focus. The next day, Azira would come to explain more. He needed to be ready for whatever came next. The following morning, Daniel found himself standing in the same circular chamber where he had met Azira the day before. The room had a different feel to it now. The air was thicker, heavier, as though something was building, something that couldn't be ignored. Azira entered the room, her presence as commanding as ever, but today, there was something more, an undercurrent of tension that Daniel couldn't ignore. Officer Owens. Azira greeted him, her voice as smooth and steady as always. It is time to speak of the next steps. Daniel nodded, trying to keep his nerves in check. He was still reeling from the revelation the day before, but now was not the time to show weakness. He had a mission to complete. I'm ready to hear what comes next. Azira motioned for him to sit, and Daniel obeyed. Though his mind was racing, she took her place across from him, her eyes searching his face as though she were reading something he wasn't aware of. The bond between our species is ancient, she began. The Saphir cannot survive without it. It is not just about the law, it is about survival. The law you underwent yesterday was only a test to see if you were compatible with us. But the true bond is something more. Daniel furrowed his brow. What do you mean by bond? Azira leaned forward slightly, her gaze intense. It is a connection that goes beyond biology. It is mental, emotional, and spiritual. It links our fates together. Once you undergo the bond, you will be tied to us forever. Your essence will merge with ours, and you will carry the weight of our survival on your shoulders. Daniel blinked in disbelief. You want me to merge with you? Azira's expression softened, though there was an unmistakable intensity in her eyes. Not just me, our entire species. The bond is a mutual agreement, a symbiosis. It is not something you can undo once it is formed. It will change you in ways you cannot yet understand. He swallowed hard, the weight of her words settling in. This was not just a political mission, it was something much bigger. His role in the survival of the Saphir was more than he had ever anticipated. The thought of merging with an alien species, of carrying their fate alongside his own, was overwhelming. What happens if I refuse? Daniel asked, his voice quiet. Azira's eyes darkened just for a moment. If you refuse, the consequences will be severe. The bond is not just a law. It is a necessity for the survival of the Saphir. Without it, we will perish, and you, Officer Owens, will be seen as the one who condemned us." The room felt colder suddenly, and Daniel's mind raced. He couldn't help but feel the weight of the decision hanging over him. This wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about responsibility. About a connection that would tie him to an alien race in ways he couldn't fully comprehend. Was he ready for that? "What do I have to do?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Azira stood and moved closer to him, her steps measured and graceful. "The bond is not something that can be forced. It is a union of minds, of spirits. We will begin the ceremony soon, and when it is complete, you will feel the change. You will understand what it means to be truly connected." Daniel took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. This was no longer just a simple diplomatic mission, it was a journey that would change him, reshape him in ways he could never have imagined. As Azira turned to lead him out of the chamber, Daniel's heart raced. The ceremony would begin soon, and there was no turning back. His mind was full of questions. But one thing was certain, his life and the fate of an entire species rested on the choices he would make in the days to come. And as he followed Azira, he couldn't help but feel that this bond, this strange connection between them, was just the beginning. Something deeper, something far more dangerous, was waiting for him on the other side. This was only the beginning of the bond, but already Daniel could feel the shift. His thoughts were no longer his own. He could sense the presence of something else, something alien stirring within him. He had no idea what the future held. But he knew one thing for sure, it wasn't just the Saphir that needed saving, it was him too. The request, the days that followed felt like an eternity to Daniel. Every interaction with Azira, every conversation with the Saphir left him more entangled in their world, their laws, and their mysterious customs. The alien bond, still unexplained, in its full depth, loomed over him like a shadow, pulling him closer to a fate he couldn't fully grasp. The unsettling connection he felt with Azira only deepened with time. It was as if their destinies were intertwined, their fate sealed by something beyond their control. Azira had been patient with him, guiding him through the complexities of the Saphir culture, teaching him their language, their history, and their way of life. But every word she spoke, every look she gave him, made Daniel question the nature of their relationship. Was this just about survival? Was he truly just a pawn in some grand alien game, or was there more to this than he could see? One evening, Azira led Daniel to a secluded terrace overlooking the vast expanse of the Saphir city. The sky, bathed in the light of twin moons, shimmered with strange colors, casting an eerie glow over everything. The stars above seemed closer here, almost within reach, and the air was filled with a low hum, as though the planet itself was alive, breathing with them. The terrace was quiet, save for the sound of the wind, which carried with it a strange, sweet scent that Daniel couldn't quite place. It was peaceful, yet heavy with an unspoken tension. As though something important was about to happen, "Officer Owens," Azira began, her voice soft, almost hesitant. "There is something I need to ask of you." Daniel turned to face her, his pulse quickening. He had felt it, the shift in her tone, the change in her demeanor. This wasn't just another lesson or diplomatic meeting, this was different. "What is it, Azira?" he asked, his voice steady but laced with curiosity. Azira paused for a moment, her eyes searching the stars above as if drawing strength from the distant light. When she spoke again, her words were slow, deliberate, as though she was weighing each one carefully. "You must understand, Officer Owens, that the bond between our species is not just about survival. It is about trust, it is about mutual respect, and it is about the future of our people." Her gaze finally met his, and in that moment, Daniel felt the weight of her eyes like they were seeing into the very depths of his soul. "I cannot force you into this bond," Azira continued. "It must be a choice, your choice. A union between us is sacred, it cannot be taken lightly. And it is not something that can be undone, but if you agree to it, you will not only save us, you will change the very fabric of our world. Your presence will be the catalyst for our rebirth." Daniel's heart pounded in his chest. He had expected a lot from this mission: diplomatic talks, negotiations, perhaps even a few strange encounters with alien customs. But this was beyond anything he had imagined. She was asking him to become something more than human, to merge his essence with theirs. And the implications were too vast to fully comprehend. "I don't know what to say," Daniel admitted, his voice strained. "This is more than I ever expected. I came here to help, to negotiate. I never imagined it would come to this." Azira's expression softened, but there was a quiet intensity in her eyes. "I know this is difficult, but it is the only way. Without this bond, our world will fade into nothingness, the Saphir will cease to exist, and your people will never understand the true nature of what we are. You must decide, Daniel. Will you become part of something greater than yourself? Will you help us, and in doing so, save us?" Daniel took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. The weight of her words pressed down on him like a physical force. His mind spun with 1,000 thoughts: his duty as an officer, the peace treaty, the survival of an entire alien species, but there was more to this, much more. The connection he felt with Azira, the pull between them, it wasn't just about saving her people, it was about something deeper, something personal. And then, as if the universe had finally granted him clarity, the answer came to him. "I can't promise I'll understand everything," Daniel said quietly, his voice filled with uncertainty but also a sense of resolve, "but I will help you. I will take the risk." Azira's eyes softened, and for the first time, Daniel saw something like relief in them. She stepped closer, her presence overwhelming, and placed her hand on his chest. The touch was light, but it sent a ripple of warmth through him. A warmth that spread through his entire being. "Thank you, Daniel," she whispered. "You do not know what this means to us, to me." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air between them crackled with unspoken understanding, a connection that went beyond words. It was as if the very fabric of the universe had shifted, aligning their destinies in ways they couldn't yet fully comprehend. Azira's hand lingered on his chest, and Daniel felt his heart race. He couldn't deny it any longer. This was no longer just a mission, it was something far greater. Something that would change him forever once the bond is formed. Azira said, breaking the silence, "You will feel it. You will feel everything, the history of our people, the weight of our survival, but there is more. Much more. We are not just saving a species, we are rewriting history." Daniel nodded, though his mind was still reeling from the enormity of it all. "I don't know if I'm ready for that, but I'll do whatever it takes." Azira smiled, a hint of sadness in her eyes. "You don't have to be ready. The bond will prepare you, it will teach you." And then, with that, she turned and began to walk away, leaving Daniel standing alone under the twin moons, the weight of her request settling in his chest like a stone. But as he stood there staring out into the alien city, Daniel knew that there was no going back. Whatever lay ahead, he was bound to this world, bound to Azira and her people. The choice had been made, and there was no turning back from it now. The bond would change everything, and Daniel was ready for better or worse. A world of secrets decision had been made, and the weight of it pressed heavily on Daniel's mind. The air around him seemed to thrum with the force of the bond he was about to undertake. It was no longer just a duty, no longer just an agreement. It was a transformation, a fusion of his humanity with an alien race. A link that would change the very core of his being, and yet, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something Azira hadn't told him, something far deeper than the survival of her people, something that lay hidden beneath the surface. Azira had left him with a promise: the bond would prepare him, teach him. But Daniel was not so certain. The more he learned about the Saphir, the more questions he had. What was it that had pushed them to the brink of extinction? Why was their survival so intertwined with this bond, and what exactly did she mean by rewriting history? He had already come this far, but there was so much more to uncover. The next few days passed in a blur, the rituals and ceremonies surrounding the bond becoming a constant presence in his life. He trained with the Saphir, learning more about their culture, their way of life, their history. It was all so strange, so alien, yet something about it resonated with him. The Saphir lived by a code of honor, a set of ancient laws that governed their every action, and it was this code that had kept them alive for millennia. Azira had become both his guide and his anchor in this alien world. But still, there were moments when Daniel would catch her staring at him with an intensity that left him unsettled. It was as though she was hiding something from him, something she hadn't yet revealed, and the more he thought about it, the more certain he became that the bond, while necessary for the Saphir's survival, was only a small part of a much larger story. One evening, after another round of training, Azira led Daniel to a hidden part of the city, a vast, underground chamber illuminated by strange, pulsating crystals that seemed to hum with life. The walls were adorned with intricate carvings, ancient symbols that seemed to tell the story of the Saphir's rise and fall. There was a quiet reverence in the air, as if this place was sacred. "This is the heart of our people," Azira said, her voice softer than usual. "It is where the history of the Saphir is preserved. It is where we keep the knowledge of our past and our future." Daniel looked around, his eyes tracing the symbols on the walls. They depicted scenes of great battles, moments of peace, and images of strange celestial events. But one image stood out among the rest. It showed two beings, one human, one Saphir, standing together, their hands outstretched, touching in a way that seemed almost ritualistic. The image radiated a strange energy, a sense of unity and power. "What is this?" Daniel asked, pointing to the image. Azira followed his gaze, her expression unreadable. "That is the prophecy of the bonded ones. It is a part of our ancient texts. It speaks of a time when the Saphir will face destruction, and only the coming of the bonded ones will save us." Daniel's mind raced. The bonded ones, you mean me? Azira nodded slowly. Yes, the prophecy foretold the arrival of one who would merge with us, who would carry the weight of our world on their shoulders. The bond you will undergo is not just for survival. It is the fulfillment of this prophecy. You are not just here to save us, you are here to lead us. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. He had known there was more to this, but he hadn't expected this. Lead you? How? I'm just one man. How could I possibly? Azira's gaze softened and she stepped closer to him. You are not just a man, Daniel, you are the key to our future. The bond will allow you to share in our knowledge, our wisdom, and our power together. We will rebuild the Saphir together. We will change the course of our history. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Daniel felt a surge of emotion, a mix of fear, excitement, and something else, something he couldn't quite identify. The weight of the prophecy was almost too much to bear. He was not just a participant in this story, he was the story. But even as he struggled to process this revelation, a new thought began to form in his mind. If this was all true, if the bond truly was the key to the Saphir's survival, then why had it taken so long for the prophecy to be fulfilled? Why had the Saphir waited until now, until he, a simple human officer, had arrived? Why me? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Why am I the one to lead you? There must be others. Other humans who could. Azira's expression darkened, and for the first time, Daniel saw a flicker of something raw in her eyes. You are the one because the prophecy said you would come. You, Officer Owens, you were chosen. Long before you ever set foot on this world. Her words were final, but Daniel could sense that there was more, something she wasn't telling him. Something about the prophecy, about his rival, that she had yet to reveal. You keep saying that, Daniel said, his voice firm now, that I was chosen, but chosen by who and why? Azira's gaze shifted, and for a brief moment, she looked almost vulnerable. That is something I cannot explain just yet, she said, her voice softening. There are forces at work, forces that go beyond even our understanding, but the bond will help you understand. Daniel's mind spun. This was bigger than he had ever imagined. His arrival on this planet, his role in the Saphir's future, it was all part of a much larger, much older story. And as he stood there in the heart of the Saphir's sacred chamber, he knew that everything was about to change. His life, his future, and the future of two worlds were now inextricably linked. But at what cost? Before he could ask another question, Azira turned, leading him back toward the exit. The bond will begin soon, Daniel. When it does, everything will be revealed. But as they walked back through the corridors of the underground chamber, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that the deeper he went, the less he understood, and the more he learned, the more dangerous the truth became. The choice following days felt like a dream, but not the kind you woke up from. The kind that clung to you even after you opened your eyes. Daniel found himself wandering through the Saphir city, lost in thought, surrounded by an alien world that was slowly becoming more familiar but still deeply strange. Everywhere he went, he saw signs of the Saphir's past greatness, the towering structures, the intricate carvings, the peaceful expressions of their people, yet there was an undercurrent of something darker, something that Daniel couldn't quite grasp. Azira was always by his side, guiding him through the rituals, the customs, explaining the bond and its significance. But as much as she revealed, the questions kept piling up. Why had the Saphir waited until now to seek out the prophecy's fulfillment? And what were these ancient forces that seemed to be pulling the strings behind the scenes? Daniel knew that the ceremony was approaching. It would be the moment of decision, the moment that would change everything. And with every passing hour, the weight of that decision pressed harder against his chest. One evening, as the twin moons hung high in the sky, casting their soft light across the city, Azira led Daniel to a secluded garden, a place filled with exotic plants that glowed softly in the moonlight, their tendrils reaching out like long, graceful fingers. The garden was quiet, almost serene, a stark contrast to the tense uncertainty Daniel felt within. Here, Azira said, her voice quieter than usual, is where the bond ceremony will take place. Daniel's heart beat faster. It was happening. Azira turned to face him, her expression unreadable. I must warn you, Daniel, that once the ceremony begins, there is no turning back. The bond is permanent. It will merge our essences, our minds, our fates. You will become part of the Saphir, and we will become part of you. But there is more to it than just survival. Daniel swallowed hard, his thoughts a blur. I'm ready. Azira, I don't know what the future holds, but I've made my choice. Azira nodded, her eyes softening just a fraction. I know. But you must understand the gravity of what this bond means. You will feel everything we feel, the history of our people, the pain of our past, the weight of our future. It will all become part of you, Daniel. I understand, Daniel said, though a part of him still recoiled at the enormity of what he was about to do. This wasn't just about saving a species, it was about becoming something other than human, a fusion of two worlds, two destinies. Azira took a step forward, her gaze unwavering. This is not just about saving us, Daniel. You are our chosen leader. You will guide us in ways you can't yet comprehend. You will help us rebuild what was lost and carry us into a new era. The words echoed in Daniel's mind, but they were quickly drowned out by the rush of conflicting emotions swirling within him. Was he truly ready for this, to merge with an alien species? To carry the weight of their survival on his shoulders? What if he couldn't bear the burden? What if the cost was too high? Azira must have sensed his hesitation, for she stepped closer, her hand reaching out to rest gently on his arm. I understand your fears. This is not easy. It will change. Everything you are, everything you know, but know this, Daniel, you will not be alone. I will be with you, always, as we share the bond. For a brief moment, Daniel was lost in her gaze, her words, her touch. They felt like an anchor in the storm of his thoughts. But even as he struggled to make sense of his feelings, something shifted within him. It wasn't just the survival of the Saphir that weighed on him now. It was something deeper, something that had been building between him and Azira ever since their first meeting. It was a connection, a pull that went beyond duty. A bond that was already forming, even before the ceremony began. He took a deep breath, letting the cool night air fill his lungs. I'll do it, he said, his voice steady. I'll go through with the bond, for the Saphir, for you. Azira's expression softened, and for the first time, he saw a flicker of emotion, of something genuine, pass across her face. It was brief, but it was enough to make Daniel feel as though he was standing at the edge of something momentous. She nodded, her eyes shining with something between gratitude and sadness. Thank you, Daniel. You have no idea what this means to us, to me. They stood there for a long moment, the weight of their words hanging in the air between them. The decision had been made, but Daniel knew that this was only the beginning. Whatever came next, it would be irreversible. Azira turned to lead him deeper into the garden, toward a clearing at the center where a large stone platform stood. The platform was inscribed with ancient symbols, and around it, the Saphir elders stood in silence, their eyes fixed on Daniel. It was time. As Daniel stepped forward, his heart pounded in his chest. He could feel the eyes of the Saphir on him, their gaze heavy with expectation. Azira stepped beside him, her presence like a force that anchored him to the moment. One of the elders stepped forward, an ancient figure with silver skin and piercing eyes. The ceremony begins now, he intoned, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. Step onto the platform and prepare for the merging of your essences. Daniel took a final breath, his body tense with anticipation. The air around him seemed to thrum with energy, the ground beneath his feet vibrating as though it were alive. The Saphir elders began to chant in unison, their voices rising in a harmonic rhythm that resonated deep within Daniel's chest. Azira's hand found his, and for a moment, he felt the warmth of her touch, the connection between them already beginning to pulse in his veins. And then, as if the world itself was holding its breath, he stepped onto the platform. The moment his feet touched the stone, everything changed. A flood of images, of sounds, of feelings rushed into his mind. The history of the Saphir, their triumphs, their failures, their pain, it all poured into him, filling every corner of his consciousness. He could feel their past, their culture, their very essence, but with it came something else, a deep, unspoken knowledge, the weight of the world they carried, the responsibility that now rested on his shoulders. And then he felt Azira's presence within him, like a second heartbeat, her thoughts intertwined with his, her emotions becoming his. The bond was complete, but as the merging continued, something unexpected happened. A voice, soft, distant, yet undeniable, echoed in his mind. You are not just the leader of the Saphir. You are the key to a much greater power. Daniel tried to focus, but the voice faded as quickly as it had come. He had no idea what it meant, but he knew that this was only the beginning. The choice he had made had bound him not just to Azira, but to the very fabric of the universe itself. Forever changed. Moments after the ceremony felt like an eternity. Daniel's mind was still reeling from the flood of sensations, images, and emotions that had overwhelmed him. As the bond deepened, he had experienced more than just a connection. With the Saphir, he had felt the pulse of the very planet itself. The sensation was both grounding and disorienting, as though he were both part of something ancient and yet part of something entirely new, a living, breathing entity that was both alien and intimately familiar. Azira's presence lingered inside him like a constant hum. It wasn't just a bond of survival, it was a merging of minds, of memories. The Saphir's history, their pain, their love, and their loss all flowed through him, creating a mosaic of emotions that he could barely comprehend. He could feel their hopes for the future, their desperate need for someone to lead them out of the darkness, and within that wave of emotion, there was one constant thought that echoed louder than any other. You are the key. But what did that mean, Daniel? stood at the edge of the stone platform, the weight of the Saphir's essence still settling inside him. The air around him shimmered with energy and the soft hum of the city filled his ears. He felt Azira's gaze on him, but this time, it wasn't just her eyes that he could feel, it was her entire presence, woven into his mind. Her thoughts intertwined with his own. As he turned to face her, he saw something in her eyes that he hadn't noticed before, a flicker of uncertainty, almost as if she were waiting for something from him. But what? Azira stepped closer, her voice soft but tinged with a seriousness he hadn't heard before. Daniel, the bond is complete, but you must understand that this is not just about leading the Saphir. You now carry something far greater than our survival within you. Daniel frowned, his mind still hazy from the intensity of the ceremony. What do you mean? Azira paused, her expression hardening as though she was weighing whether or not to reveal something more. There is a force, Daniel. A force that has been guiding the Saphir for centuries. It is not something we fully understand, but we know it is connected to the bond, the prophecy. It speaks of a greater power that will awaken with the arrival of the bonded one. And you, Daniel, are that one. You are the vessel for that power. Daniel's heart skipped a beat. A greater power? He tried to steady his breath. The weight of her words was suffocating. What kind of power? Azira's eyes darkened. I cannot explain it all at once. But the power within you, it is not just about us, it is about the universe itself. The Saphir are only a part of something much larger, and the bond will reveal that to you. It is why we have waited so long. The time has come for the bond to change not just our people but the course of everything. Daniel's mind spun as he tried to make sense of the enormity of what she was saying. The course of everything, his pulse quickened. He wasn't just involved in the survival of an alien species. He was now part of something cosmic. He had become a bridge between worlds, between forces he couldn't begin to comprehend. Azira, Daniel said, his voice trembling despite himself. What exactly am I supposed to do with this power? How am I supposed to lead your people and change the course of the universe? Azira looked at him, her gaze unwavering. You must understand, Daniel, this power is not something you control. It controls you. The moment the bond was completed, it began to merge your essence with something beyond the Saphir. You are now connected to something ancient, something that existed before us, before your people. The balance between creation and destruction, between order and chaos. You must find a way to harness it, but be careful. The force that flows through you is volatile. It will test you. It will push you to your limits. The weight of her words hit him like a physical blow. A force that controls him. Azira took a step back, her face softening as she seemed to read the storm of thoughts running through his mind. You are not alone in this, Daniel. The bond will guide you. It will show you the path, but you must be prepared for the sacrifices it demands. Daniel stared at her, his mind filled with questions that had no answers. The power, the prophecy, the force controlling him, it all seemed so much bigger than what he had signed up for. But it was too late to turn back now. The decision had been made. Azira's voice broke through his thoughts. Come, I will show you the way forward. She led him through the garden and toward a towering structure at the heart of the city. The structure was unlike anything Daniel had seen before. It was massive, its exterior made of smooth, shimmering stone that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly light. It wasn't just a building, it was a monument, a symbol of the Saphir's past and their future. As they approached the base of the structure, Azira paused and turned to Daniel. This is the nexus. It is the source of our connection to the greater power. It is where the prophecy will unfold. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. He could feel the energy emanating from the nexus, powerful, ancient, and undeniably real. It was as though the entire universe was contained within this structure, waiting for something. Waiting for him. Azira placed a hand on his shoulder. You must enter the nexus, Daniel. It is where you will learn how to wield the power within you. It is where you will truly understand your role in the prophecy. With that, Azira stepped back and Daniel felt the pull of the nexus, irresistible, undeniable. The door to the structure opened, revealing an interior unlike anything he had ever imagined. The walls were lined with shimmering crystals, and in the center of the room stood a massive, pulsing orb of light, swirling with cosmic energy. The air inside the nexus was thick with power, and Daniel could feel it vibrating in his bones. Azira single quotes S. Voice echoed in his mind. This is where it begins, Daniel. This is where you will either rise or fall. Embrace the power, or it will consume you. Daniel stepped forward, the weight of the Saphir's destiny and the universe itself pressing down on him. He had made his choice, and now he would face the consequences of that choice. As he moved toward the orb, he could feel the energy within it calling to him. The power of creation and destruction, of life and death, of balance and chaos. It was all there, waiting to be understood, to be wielded. The bond had already begun to change him. But the true test was just beginning. With one final breath, Daniel reached out and touched the orb. And the universe responded,